Good day, everyone. Welcome to the Powered Electricity World and the Solar Show Africa event 2020. My name is Caroline Mupima, and I'm the conference producer for the show. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our sponsors and exhibitors for supporting the event. I welcome you to the next session.
Good afternoon. My name is Betha Dlamini. I am the president of African Women in Energy and Power. I am delighted today to be speaking to you about our views on women participation in the energy and power sector in Africa. Today we speak about women entrepreneurs in energy against a very difficult backdrop. COVID-19 has unearthed huge inequalities within our societies and brought to a glaring light the unique burdens that women carry the world over. We can no longer use a singular perspective to assess and design solutions for women participation in energy. The impact of the pandemic compels us to use multidimensional lenses to reckon with the challenge we face to support women entrepreneurs during the recovery from the pandemic. This is not going to be a short-term intervention. It's a medium to long-term vision, which must change how we see women participation in the economy at large. A recent article published by the Open Society Initiative of Southern Africa reported the following, and I quote, "COVID-19 has caused massive shocks to both the informal and formal economies in Africa. The World Bank's Africa Pulse estimates that the sub-Saharan African region will see significant economic decline and plunge to between -2.1% and as low as -5.1% this year due to COVID-19's global crisis. The region is predicted to fall into its first recession in 25 years, reversing encouraging gains over the past 2 decades, and 2.4% economic growth experienced just last year alone. The continent is replete with micro and small to medium-sized businesses, with 85.8% of employment generated by the informal economy. Any successful efforts at economic revitalization need to encompass the informal economy, as the informal sector makes up 55% of the economy in sub-Saharan Africa," unquote. This illuminates a new era that as business, non-government organizations, non-profit organizations, community organizations, and governments themselves must contend with. On the continent, women carry the burden of energy poverty at a domestic level and at a business level. Women in Africa make up 58% of the continent's self-employed population, 58% of the continent's self-employed population. Africa's female entrepreneurship, on the other hand, its rate is the highest in the world. 27% of the female adult population is engaged in early stage entrepreneurial activity on the continent. This means African women are twice as likely to start a business as women elsewhere in the world. Africa therefore represents a vast reservoir of entrepreneurial potential, talent, and resilience that can ignite industrial activity and anchor a path for sustainable economic recovery post-COVID-19. Africa is also challenged with limited access to electricity, as we know and we've been speaking about for years. Lack of electricity excludes women from the digital economy at a time when COVID-19 requires participation in digitized labor markets. With a lack of broadband infrastructure and the electricity to power it, women entrepreneurs find themselves excluded from the internet and digital technologies that have become a prerequisite for participation in economy, in society, in cultural engagement, including politics. This challenge presents inspiring opportunities to rethink and reimagine how we can work collectively in business and society to remove barriers for economic participation of women. At African Women in Energy and Power, AWEaP, we focus on the following areas as our own contribution to the solution. When we look at access to information and networks, an area that has been written about continuously over the years as a barrier for women's participation in the economy, including the energy and power sector. We have a series of webinars to create a virtual space for entrepreneurs to share their testimonies on how they cracked the power and energy sector. Entrepreneurs speak about access to market, access to finance, and access to technology. They speak about the products, services, solutions, and systems that they offer in the power and energy sector. In their testimonies, they share lessons learned, challenges faced, and further opportunities they have identified for women participation. They speak about value chains of their niche markets or even their segments, how they got to understand how these value chains operate, how they got to understand the players within the value chains, and how these value chains present entrepreneurial opportunities for women. We encourage entrepreneurs in energy and women entrepreneurs at large, to invest time to explore entrepreneurial opportunities in the power and energy sector, research and gather credible information on their respective markets, that especially the changes that are taking place that bring about emerging entrepreneurial opportunities. Women entrepreneurs are sharing experiences of their entrepreneurial journey across the sector, unpacking insights on how the COVID pandemic is impacting their business operations, customers, communities, and therefore, this becomes a very profound learning opportunity for women in energy. Our webinars can be found on our website. When we look at access to market, which is also another profound barrier for women participation in the energy and power sector, we recognize that the energy and power sector is a highly regulated market. It is absolutely critical, therefore, to understand in detail the regulatory regimes that are at play in different countries and different markets, and the policies that are being implemented that give rise to entrepreneurial opportunities for women. In this case, we work with electricity utilities, whom we invite to our webinars to share information on their strategies and their project pipelines, including their procurement policies and processes. We invite them to speak about trends in the electricity business model globally. They speak about the impact of the just energy transition. They speak about trends in electricity business model, giving a local context and giving a background to the entrepreneurial opportunities that women can look out for. They speak about modernization and emerging opportunities. They speak about their procurement policies, and processes. They speak about gender mainstreaming and how they view women participation in the energy space. The energy transition will differ depending on a country's development priorities, the proportion of the population with access to energy and power, the proportion of the population that has got access to the power grid, the current energy mix, and the projected demand. Some transitions may involve simply retrofitting old, unsustainable assets in order to reduce their carbon dioxide emissions, while others may be part of a multifaceted development strategy for societal transformation, including gender equality and inclusion. In Africa, the COVID pandemic is emphasizing the need for support to power the last mile, as decentralized technologies hold great promises to accelerate universal access to electricity. All these present entrepreneurial opportunities for women, coupled with the growing designation for markets, which now ranges between 30% and 40% of public procurement. When we get to access to technology, access to technology supports access to market. Established multinational players have the opportunity to play a pivotal role in creating an inclusive energy and power sector in Africa. Here we invite original equipment manufacturers across the full energy value chain of generation, transmission, and distribution to share their channel partner programs and their focus on women participation in this area. In this area, we invite them to speak on the following: trends in utility technology, giving a local context, what African utilities need to optimize their performance and therefore increase access to sustainable energy, their enterprise development programs, especially where they target women entrepreneurs, their channel partner programs, and their gender mainstreaming policies. We do the same for independent power producers. We understand that the world needs to shift from the current fossil fuel-based energy system to carbon neutrality. This will require countries to roll out renewable energy and integrate it into the electricity grid, boost energy efficiency, upgrade infrastructure, and refine the governance of electricity and energy markets. This also supports it's also in support of the Sustainable Development Goals, which have widely received official endorsement by African governments and have been incorporated into many government action plans and national strategies. This transition will require that women are able to contribute to the transition on an equal footing with men. And therefore, we see the just transition also presenting ample opportunities, entrepreneurial opportunities. Access to finance is also yet another barrier that we seek to minimize and remove for women participation. The green energy transition provides opportunities to tackle systemic gender discrimination and enable societies to reap the benefits of a more diverse workforce. I want to give an example that took place not in the continent, not in Africa, but took place in Turkey. In 2019, Garanti BBVA Bank signed the world's first gender loan with a Turkish company, Polat Energy. The loan is to the tune of $44 million, which will finance the construction of Turkey's largest wind farm. Polat Energy, the recipient of the gender loan, their performance will be annually assessed based on a series of gender criteria and improvements. Improvements in their performance in these criteria will enhance the terms of the loan. A lot of the green energy transition projects and those geared at accelerating universal access to energy will be financed through the debt capital markets. Even before the impact of the COVID pandemic and the diversion of resources to response interventions, support for current regional power pools in Africa and their combined service to transform Africa from traditional to modern sources of energy and ensure access by all Africans to clean and affordable electricity was already galvanized. This was necessitated by the need to secure supply for electricity. This, combined with the move by banks to consider gender criteria, means that there's ample opportunities for women to access finance for energy projects. We do note that the financing of sustainable development goals is well below the requisite levels in our continent. Public revenues shortfalls in the continent are sizable, and therefore the pace of reform is rather slow. 1 in 5 African countries do not raise enough revenues to meet their basic state functions. This constrained government fiscal space means that infrastructure development projects and programs will be funded from the debt capital market. This also means that women entrepreneurs must gain sufficient knowledge and understanding of the debt capital markets and how they can access finance for their energy projects. Partnerships between government, social partners, and business are necessary to remove barriers to access to finance for women, especially now as recovery from the pandemic must already ensure an inclusive path. The World Bank's Public-Private Partnership Legal Resource Center reports that multinational development banks, as well as bilateral and national development banks, and many other leading intergovernmental organizations have a growing commitment to finance and support infrastructure projects and programs that incorporate gender considerations. In this case, we invite finance houses, development finance institutions, commercial banks, private equity firms, and venture capital funds to speak on trends in SMME funding, trends in energy project funding, the intersection between energy project funding, utility project funding, SMME funding, with particular emphasis on gender. We invite them to speak on their projects that support SMMEs through their applications for funding, support available for Black women-owned enterprises. In conclusion, we see women participation in the energy and power sector as a concerted effort by multiple stakeholders in the power and energy ecosystem who recognize the economic value that can be unlocked through this inclusive pathway for the ecosystem at large, and how this will improve the prospects of future generation. Therefore, gender participation or women participation in the energy and power space is truly a socio-economic imperative. I thank you. I hope you have enjoyed the insights I have shared on women participation in energy and power.
What an amazing session. I hope that you enjoyed it. Please take time to network with our sponsors and exhibitors at their exhibition booths. We look forward to seeing you at the next session.